A natural woman remembering. It is not good that man should be alone.
The opening chapter of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, tells of God's creation, declaring it all to be good, very good. The second chapter then zooms into a section of this creation story, fleshing out particularly the formation of humankind and first focusing on finding one thing that is not yet good about creation. God says, "It is not good that man should be alone." Then this zoomed in and fleshed out story tells of God proceeding to create woman, that man may be complete and creation very good. But not quite yet. As if to rib man and to rub in his being a rough draft, God first forms from the ground all sorts of wild beasts and birds, parade these before him, and have him name them, that is, declare their various kinds and strange characteristics. In thus first seeing all the wonderful diversity and beauty of life, man feels increasingly strange and alienated. He sees that every one of these beasts and birds belongs to a partner kind, consisting of male and female. He alone is strange because solitary and partnerless. You can imagine him in the midst of this parade of partners, this stream of strangeness, feeling all the more and more and more alone, alienated, tired, and uninspired. Defining man's loneliness and that it is not good, and building up the drama to the creation of woman is the explicit intent of this parade of beasts and birds. This is clear from the Bible's concluding the episode with, "But for Adam, no companion who corresponded to him was found." It is intriguing that it is in this episode in which man first gives names to the other living beings that the Bible itself first gives Adam his name. Before this, since the first chapter of Genesis, the Bible has consistently used the word Adam as a common noun, meaning man in the sense of humankind, of humanity. Here, for the first time, and the only time in this creation story, the Bible uses Adam as a proper noun, a personal name. We get to understand that this story of man's creation is also a story of defining and establishing man's identity. The Bible unfolds man's identity by its strategic use of words referring to man. In the précis of creation in the first chapter of Genesis, the Bible, in Genesis 1:26-27, uses Adam and Ha-Adam for the man and Zakar for male. The second chapter's zoomed-in retelling first uses Ha-Adam, then shifts once to Adam, Adam with its Hebrew pointing indicating it is a personal name, and quickly back again to Ha-Adam. Then, upon seeing woman, the man, Ha-Adam, refers to himself as Ish, which in Hebrew means man in relation to woman. It is extremely important to note this inasmuch as the Bible is very careful in its use of words as well as when and how it uses them. This is particularly so in its telling of the creation of man and in defining his identity. Clearly defining man's identity and woman's indispensable part in it is crucial to the story of creation as well as to the biblical story as a whole, especially because this identity is quite precarious. On it has hung the whole history of creation. On it hangs the recovery of original creation on the original natural man and woman. We will have to hold these thoughts, however, and return to them later, here and in the next chapter. For now, we need to hasten back to the man. The Bible, again, does not refer to him by his personal name, who is increasingly getting overwhelmed by his own alienation amidst the parade of partners that to him has become a barrage of binaries. Loneliness and exhaustion amidst the stream of strangeness soon sink the man into deepest sleep, and as he sleeps, God crafts for him the desire of his dreams. Woman is the glory of man. Woman is special to God. The way the Bible tells of her creation makes sure we perceive, discern, understand, and not overlook, neglect, or forget this specialness of woman. As we have noted earlier, after declaring in the first chapter of Genesis how very good God's creation is, the Bible in the second chapter points out what is not yet good about it. There is no woman. The Bible emphasizes by this its own critique of creation, how woman makes creation very good. Then the Bible, after proclaiming God's intent to create woman, immediately puts in an intermission in the story, telling of the creation and the parade of beasts and birds, man's naming of livestock, beasts and birds, and man's lack of mate. This intermission heightens the anticipation for the intended creation of woman and the dramatic effect of the story. Then the Bible proceeds with ever more tender detail in telling of the creation of woman, allotting 7 verses to it, Genesis 2:18 to 24, in contrast to 1 verse to the creation of man, Genesis 2:7. Even the words the Bible uses in telling the story of the creation of woman are special. When the Bible in this second chapter speaks of God forming man and the beasts, it uses the Hebrew word yatsar. This is the word used in pottery, meaning to form, to fashion, to shape clay, which is apt as man, beasts, and birds are formed from the ground. When, on the other hand, the Bible speaks of God creating woman, it uses the Hebrew word bana. As if to stress the specialness of this word, the Bible uses it only this once in the whole creation story, from the first to the second chapter of Genesis. Bana is an architectural term, meaning to build, to establish. It is used elsewhere in the Bible when speaking of building cities, temples, altars, towers, and dynasties. The Bible thus gives us a still deeper sense of just how special woman is to God. God puts more care, planning, and effort in creating woman than in creating man and beasts and birds, as more care, planning, and effort are required to build cities and temples and altars and towers and dynasties than to make clay pots. Still, all this is not yet enough for the Bible in testifying to how woman is exceptional to the Creator. It further recounts that whereas God creates the beasts and the birds from out of the ground and man from the dust of the ground, God builds up woman from a part that God takes out of a side of man. We have to take aside for later this last biblical point, as man is now just awakening and is about to see this extraordinary being that God has just created from him and for him. of my bones, flesh of my flesh. Out of deepest slumber, the man wakes up to the fulfillment of his dreams. From lowest loneliness, he leaps to the heights of ecstasy. Listen to him exclaim upon first seeing what God had created for him while he was sleeping. "This, at last, is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man."